10:15. So I mentioned then that the Everyman Theatre in Cheltenham is about to close for refurbishment. In fact, there's just over a week to go until the doors are temporarily shut for this part of spring-summer. But next week you'll hear about plans for improvements. I've been behind the scenes there, but the final production in the Studio Theatre is a sketch show called Final Daze. Now, it's directed by a gent who has a long association with the theatre. I popped along to rehearsals last week to find out more.
You got time now, mate?
Sorry?
The time. You got the time?
Well, it's just gone 6 o'clock.
Ah, good.
My name's Michael Hasted. I'm currently directing a review called Final Daze for the Studio Theatre, and I'm also writing a book on the history of the Everyman Theatre, which is going to be published in September.
And the Everyman Theatre's got a very special place in your heart, hasn't it?
It does. When I was 16, it's still at school. This was at the grammar school when it was still in the High Street. The rep had just started, and they were short of stagehands, and about 4 or 5 of us were recruited to come and work backstage. And I came along on Boxing Day, 1961, with Robert Whelan, who is also in the Final Daze show. And it says in the book, because I interviewed lots of other people who had similar circumstances, it was like walking through the back of the wardrobe in The Lion and the Witch, the wardrobe. It was like entering a different and completely new world, and it transformed my life, it transformed Robert's life, and several other people who went off to work in the theatre. I stopped any sort of schoolwork, and consequently was kicked out of school the following Easter, and went off and worked in rep all around the country for several years. And Robert managed to stay at school and went off to university, but dropped out of university and then started working in the theatre. And he's been working in the theatre all his life.
You are a hoodie. My mates hate hoodies.
Oh, this is ridiculous. Do I look like a hoodie?
Well, you can't always judge by appearances, can you?
It's a sketch show.
It's a sketch show, yeah.
There seems to have been a bit of a resurgence in sketch show on television, for example.
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, in the 60s with Peter Cook and Dudley Moore and Monty Python and all that sort of stuff. I mean, in the 60s, in the theatre in the 60s, the reviews like the one we're doing here were a form of theatre. People like Harold Pinter, John Mortimer, all those people wrote sketches for reviews like this, and it was beyond the fringe, and it was a very positive form of entertainment, which, as you say, is now making a bit of a resurgence with people like Armstrong and Miller and that sort of thing. And the things like the Two Ronnies, they were doing essentially the same thing, but in a variety format. But the sketches were very much the sort of sketches that we're doing now. It's 2 or 3 minutes of dialogue, hopefully a line at the end which is quite funny, and blackout. And then we all move the furniture around, and the lights come up, we start again.
Great fun, very fast-moving as well. But
hopefully.
The gags and the sketches, are they things that you've been storing up for a while that you've thought, oh, I really would like an outlet for this, and now you can put them all together?
Some of them are very old indeed. In fact, there are a couple of sketches in the show which were based or inspired by a review that was done here in, must have been 1962, when I was about 16, and I thought, yes, I'll put those in a sort of homage. There are some which are completely and utterly brand new, which I've thought up.
Tell me about the cast, then.
There's Robert Whelan. It's 50 years ago this year that Robert and I first started working in the theatre, and it's the first time we've seen each other in 40 years. And I got in touch with him in September last year, research for the book, because he worked here in the 60s much longer than I did, because I went off to rep and all around, and he worked here for 2 or 3 years, so he had more stories about the theatre. So initially I contacted him for the book, and then when I was talking to him, I thought, he'd be good for the review. So he was recruited for that. Wendy Abrahams is a well-known face in the Everyman. She did Dandini in the pantomime at Christmas and was excellent in that. Stephen Rayworth is somebody I've known for quite a long time. He's always worked in the theatre. He did the one-man show of Quentin Crisp at the Playhouse. And the fourth one is Andrew Thorne, who's another local actor. He's got his own theatre company and works mainly doing theatre pieces for and in schools.
Give us a fiver, then.
Oh, very well. Just go away and leave me alone.
Ta.
Right, so another man comes on, blah, 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 stands here. When it was first talked about doing this show, Paul Milton, who's the artistic director, he wanted the show to contain references to it being the last show, hence the name. And there's the opening sketch is like a health and safety announcement, and that makes reference to it. And there's the last sketch is combined with the curtain call, which also makes reference to it being the last show. So in the show itself, the closure is mentioned. It is relevant in the show.
That's Michael Hasted, director of Final Daze, which is in the Everyman Studio Theatre from Wednesday 27th to the 30th of April. So if you want to go along and see that, I do like a good sketch show, and I think it's not often you see them on stage now, so really good. So that's next Wednesday through until Saturday. Performance times, Wednesday and Thursday, 7:45 in the evening, Friday 7:45 and 10 p.m. So there's 2 on the Friday, Saturday at 8 p.m. And the box office number is 01242 572 573 572 573. And next week you'll hear more about that book that Michael was talking about, that he's been writing about the history of the Everyman Theatre. Plus you'll find out what's happening to the theatre over the next few months when it's in closed form, as they refurbish it and make it really smart for you for the next performances. All that to come next week.